I'm Ami Horowitz. Democrats and the Democratic Party have moved decisively to the left. How far to the left, you may ask? What's wrong with socialism?
Nothing.
What's wrong with socialism?
Nothing.
Nothing. What's wrong with socialism?
I don't have anything. I don't have any problems with it.
I don't think anything's wrong with socialism.
Capitalist countries have always been messing with its ideology and trying to delegitimize it.
I kind of like it. I think the American people like socialism.
I think socialism's great.
This is a pretty dangerous part of town. What are we doing here?
Buscando algo que comer.
What kind of food?
Lo que sea, lo que encuentre. Perro, un gato, una paloma. Tengo mucha hambre. Tengo mucha hambre.
Venezuela, a democratic socialist state with the world's largest oil reserves, has descended into a mind-boggling Malthusian chaos. The country has been engulfed in violence, hunger, and corruption, and is on the edge of total societal collapse. Venezuela's socialist experimentation has decimated the middle class, and most people in Caracas live in the extremely dangerous barrios of the city. These barrios are massive, crudely built, claustrophobic cities within cities. We're here in one of the biggest barrios in Caracas to get a sense of how the situation is affecting the poor people here. It's a very dangerous place. We made a deal from the barrio bosses, so we should be safe.
Hopefully.
¿Cuál es tu aporte al rap? Sí, no es por amor al arte, no quién soy yo, es quién. ¿Te crees tú para comparar?
Are there times where you're just hungry? Your family is hungry?
Sí, ya yo he pasado hambre y mi familia también.
Muchísima hambre, incluso a veces me da tembladera por sueño, hambre.
Mayormente pasamos hambre porque no conseguimos la comida, no conseguimos la leche, el cereal, el alimento, el azúcar, nada de esas cuestiones. Entonces, por eso mayormente pasamos.
Yo estoy parada y de repente me desmayo porque no he comido nada en toda la noche.
Food has become so scarce that people have to wait in lines, very long lines, in order to get enough to survive, just barely. What time did you go to wait in line?
Estuve desde ayer en la madrugada haciendo la cola desde las 2 y conseguí fue esto, leche nada más.
All night, all you got was that one can of milk, of leche?
Nada más, una sola.
A mí me toca son los martes y me toca ir los lunes desde más o menos de las 12 de la noche, dormir allá y esperar a ver qué llega, si logro comprar algo. O sea, es muy difícil.
Los niños míos se acuestan sin comer. O sea, yo a veces los dejo, me voy, no sé si ellos de tantas horas que yo me la paso en la cola.
Getting in line overnight does not guarantee that you will come away with anything, because the lines are controlled by the government-approved mafia, with the socialist Orwellian name, the Collective. Getting in line, they bust in their own people right before the stores open and grab most of the food. These are bad dudes that care little for the common people. And these big dogs always eat first. And of course, they don't want their control of the lines to be filmed.
Menos con la cuestión de los colectivos, eso es una zona que dominan ellos, pues.
¿Cómo te van a decir que tú tienes aquí 100 personas por delante si yo ni te he visto? Entonces llega y te dice, no, pero ¿qué tal? Que si no te sale la cola, te vamos a tal, o sea, te amenazan para que te salga de la cola.
Pues ellos son los que dominan a la gente de la cola, ellos son los que llevan la cola a la organizada, y si yo no le gusta que usted compre, no compra, pues.
There are only two classes in Venezuela, the poor and the super rich. The income inequality is absolutely staggering. While most of the country is literally starving, the government-connected mega-rich are still rocking it old school.
Bueno, yo antes de que empezara todo este problema éramos de la media. Ahorita ya estamos en baja, ya ahorita...
Ellos, el gobierno también, ellos tienen su comida, tienen su casa, tan cómodos. Nosotros somos los que tenemos que estar pasando trabajo.
La necesidad del otro venezolano que tiene, no, pues el otro venezolano puede conocer a un general, puede conocer a un bachaquero que le puede conseguir la comida por bulto.
Y de paso, si tenemos un teléfono caro, no lo podemos sacar porque, como te expliqué ahorita, te lo roban. Si tienes un reloj caro, te lo roban.
The one thing that is egalitarian in Venezuela is violence. The wave of violence that has descended upon the country has been epic. They have less than 1/10 the population of the United States, but 3 times as many murders. Caracas has had more deaths this year than Baghdad, and those are the reported numbers. The real numbers are much, much higher. All this despite the fact that Venezuela has extremely strict gun laws. This dystopian country has literally become one of the most dangerous places to be on planet Earth. While the violence is literally happening everywhere in Venezuela, it seems particularly bad here in the barrios. I know we got permission to shoot here, but it doesn't really feel like a safe space to me.
Todos esos huecos que están así en esas paredes son tiros así en esas paredes.
Ahorita yo vivo en barrio y en los barrios se ve el pistoleteo, el malandreo, se ve todo y salen a robar, entonces llegan el otro y se comentan.
A nadie ni decirle nada, porque te pueden hacer daño en cualquier manera, te matan y todo.
Do you know anybody who's been killed personally in your life?
A mi hermano y me lo mataron en mi cara y le mataron por robarle la moto prácticamente.
Sí, bueno, a mi primo, nosotros nos mataron un primo aquí.
Hace 5 meses tuve una pérdida de mi novia que la mataron le dieron un disparo en la pastora en la cabeza.
Lo mataron allá en la entrada, estaba con mi papá yo lavando la camioneta y le dieron unos tiros ahí y se murió prácticamente en mis brazos.
Matan a la gente a la luz del día, los roban a la luz del día, hay policías en zona de Caracas y no hacen nada, han robado por lo menos en parte de Caracas, de Capitolio, ahí roban a todo el mundo y los policías están por ahí siempre, igualito roban. Caracas está bastante inseguro ahorita, con la situación del país como está.
Right in front of us, a man was shot in the street by unknown assailants.
Caracas está bastante inseguro ahorita.
The guy just got shot. They're the cop. Right in front of us, a man was shot in the street. Do you feel socialism works?
No, porque eso no funciona, porque si funcionara no estamos como estamos ahorita, que estamos ahorita pasando hambre y necesidad, pues, ¿entiendes? Porque eso no funciona aquí, eso...
No, si esto funcionara de verdad, nosotros no estuviéramos en esto, pues. No estuviéramos haciendo cola, no estuviéramos matándonos por ahí, arriesgando nuestras vidas. En realidad no funciona, no sirve, como quien dice.
No, en realidad eso no funciona para nada aquí. Eso es un engaño como quien dice, que ellos no hacen nada, no sirven para nada. Son como unos X más en la vida. No sirven para nada.
Let me ask you this, what do you think of Americans who want to bring socialism, democratic socialism, into America?
Tienen que vivir lo que nosotros estamos viviendo para que ellos vean que no es nada bueno. Para que vean que esto es lo que es una pesadilla para uno, terror.
Yo le digo al estadounidense que no cometa esa locura porque eso es una mentira. Pues. Nosotros nos mintieron, estamos pasando hambre, hay mucha delincuencia y bueno, que no cometan esa locura.
Lo que le diría es que intentaran vivir aquí, que ellos se vinieran para acá y que sintieran lo mismo que nosotros estamos sintiendo, para ver si dirían que aquí hay de todo, como ellos dicen. Los invitamos a que vinieran para acá y vivan aquí. Y que
they are one of the most productive, their people are the happiest, they have the least amount of crime, violence. And
Socialist countries.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it in my eyes.
Hi, I'm Marissa Streit, CEO of PragerU. Did you know that PragerU is a nonprofit? Every dollar you give on the donate link below will go directly towards marketing this video. I'm Marissa Streit, CEO of PragerU. Did you know that PragerU is a nonprofit? Every dollar you give on the
I'm Calvin Phillips with Campus Reform. Today we're at the University of Miami talking to students about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. It sounds nice, it's ambitious, but will students support it when they find out what's actually in it? Let's talk to them and find out. The #1 trending thing on social media yesterday was her Green New Deal. It's a plan to combat climate change. It was already endorsed by multiple Democrat frontrunners for president in 2020.
Yeah.
Based on what you've heard of the plan, would you say you view it favorably or unfavorably?
I view it favorably. I think that we need to cut our reliance on fossil fuels.
It's definitely a great idea.
I like that it's progressive. I like that it is going to push the world forward in the way we need to be.
I would say it's a favorable act.
Just from like knowing like who's endorsed it and just like some like little things, it sounds great.
I think it'd be great for us.
I think if we didn't do that, then we're going to be killing ourselves basically. So we need to take care of ourselves.
I think it's very important to support that.
Anything that would reduce our dependence on fossil fuels is really important.
I definitely support this movement.
Some of the things in the plan I want to get your opinion on. So the plan says within 10 years, we're going to completely outlaw coal, natural gas, and oil. So gasoline, anything like that in 10 years.
I don't agree with that. To be honest with you, I think we need those things to live.
I do not think it is feasible in 10 years. I don't think that that would be something that would be able to be done in such a short amount of time.
I think 10 years is a little extreme because I feel like there's such a big global market and economic impact of oil businesses, albeit it might not be good for the environment, but you can't deny there's a big economic impact of these companies.
What's your thought on that?
Sounds like a reach, honestly.
Do you think that's feasible?
No.
If you're unwilling to work, we will still supply help for your salary and help for a living wage.
No, absolutely not.
If you're not willing to contribute to society, then I don't think that the people who are contributing should pay for you. So I disagree with that.
I feel like it kind of sends the poor message of, you can just get away with not doing anything and, getting money. It's kind of stupid.
I don't like that personally. Unwilling isn't the best way to go about things. Like, I don't want to go to college, but I have to get a job, so.
Everyone needs to contribute. That's the only way society works.
I don't know about that one. I think that if you're unwilling,
it sounds nice, it's ambitious, but will students support it when they find out what's actually in it? If you didn't
What's
want to go to class, if you were unwilling to go to class, should I still give you a good grade? What's her
No.
Green New Deal? Plan to combat
Yeah, like people definitely need a job and need to work.
eliminating almost all air travel with high-speed rails. What's your thought on that?
I feel like it's kind of the same one. It's like I feel like 10 years is a little extreme for that.
I don't think it should be eliminated altogether. I think it's definitely it can be an option. I think the more options we have, the better.
I think that's drastic. I haven't heard of that one yet.
Yeah, I can't see that happening either, honestly.
We've come so far to get to this point where we are right now with using these resources, and to say, oh, we have to get rid of it in 10 years seems a little too much to me.
Who's going to pay for all of it? Who's going to offset the trillions of dollar cost that it would be?
Right. I don't know.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of like, who's really going to pay? I don't, like.
Based on what you've heard from these, does it change your perception of the plan at all?
Yeah, a lot.
Sometimes you need to take extreme measures to save the environment, but I don't think that is I think it's a bit too extreme.
It doesn't sound like something I would be behind.
I don't agree with us having to, take away flying in the air. I don't agree with, taking away coal and things like that, and I don't agree with everyone getting money for doing nothing.
I'm Cabot Phillips with Campus Reform. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to donate to help us make more videos just like that,
Chain migration means every new immigrant that comes to the U.S. has the right to bring a bunch more people in. What does this mean exactly? Large and growing numbers of would-be immigrants get in line, clamoring to get in. The American people don't get to decide how many immigrants can enter each year. Instead, past immigrants do. Here's how it works. Sophia immigrates to the United States after she gets her degree and lands a job in the U.S. She obtains legal permanent residence, then decides to bring her husband Jim and their 3 kids into the U.S. legally. But wait, there's more. Sophia has 2 distant cousins, John and Scott, and 1 cousin, Mary. Let's not forget Jim, he has 1 uncle, Joseph. 2 second cousins, Thomas and Greg. Sophia's cousin, John, decides to marry Susan and have 2 kids, Sarah and Ivan, right before he comes to America. Her other distant cousin, Scott, and his wife, Julie, have 3 kids, Elizabeth, Ethan, and Joshua. Her 3rd cousin, Mary, who she didn't even know existed, and her husband, Bob, have 4 kids, Zach, Sue, Stacy, and Bill. They all get to come over, too. I'm sure they won't crowd our schools. Uncle Joseph has a wife and 3 kids. His wife's name is Janet, and kids are Sandy, Jackie, and Dustin. His cousin Thomas is no exception. He brings over his pregnant wife, Ann, just in time to have their 2 twin daughters, Jessica and Rebecca, on American soil. Greg also has a wife named Lois and 3 daughters and 1 son, Allison, Emily, Erica, and Carl. Jim also decides to bring over his grandparents, Herbert and Beatrice. They'll really be beneficial to our workforce. So what has started as one person immigrating to the United States has now turned into 36 new immigrants due to chain migration. And this is just one example of chain migration. 61% of the 33 million immigrants in the U.S. are here due to chain migration. It's time to break the chain.
Based on what you've heard from these, does it change your perception of the plan at all?
Yeah, a lot.
Sometimes you need to take extreme measures to save the environment, but I don't think that is I think it's a bit too extreme.
It doesn't sound like something I would be behind.
What is the world's most dangerous ideology? In the first part of the 20th century, the answer was fascism. First manifest in Italy in the 1920s, and then in Nazi Germany and in Imperial Japan. It took a world war and 50 million dead to stamp it out. In the second half of the 20th century, the answer was communism. Between the Soviet Union, Mao's China, and their client states, at least 100 million people were killed in its wake.
Every new immigrant that
Today,
comes
the
to
answer is
the US has the
Islamism,
right to
a
bring
radical and
a bunch
often
more
violent
people in.
form of Islam.
What does this mean exactly?
Like fascism and
Large
communism,
and growing numbers of
Islamism is
would-be immigrants
totalitarian
get
in
line,
nature.
clamoring to
The
get
state
in.
controls
The
everything.
American people
Also,
don't
like
get to
fascism
decide
and
how many
communism,
immigrants.
Islamism is inherently expansionist. It always seeks to get bigger, cross borders, and bring as many peoples as possible under its control. And, like fascism and communism, many of Islamism's adherents are prepared to kill to achieve its aims. Those aims are antithetical to everything Western and other free societies stand for. Free speech, free enterprise, freedom to practice or not to practice any religion, freedom of assembly, a free press, and, of course, fundamental human and civil rights for all their citizens. Islamism completely rejects the Western principle of separating religion from government. In its view, governments are legitimate only if they rule according to religious law, in Islamism's case, Sharia, Islam's extensive body of sacred laws. Sharia is based on the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran is believed to be the literal words of Allah as revealed to his prophet Muhammad in the 7th century, and the Sunnah consists of the words and deeds attributed to Muhammad. Islamists interpret Sharia to hold that anyone born Muslim must remain Muslim and face execution if they convert to any other religion, that adulterers must be stoned to death, that anyone who insults Islam or Muhammad must either be severely whipped or executed, and that thieves should have a limb cut off. In addition, Islamists condone polygamy and child marriage. These beliefs are being put into practice right now in, among other places, Iran, the Sudan, Saudi Arabia, the Muslim parts of Nigeria, parts of Pakistan, Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and wherever else Sharia has established a foothold. If Islamists were content to live under strict Sharia law in their own communities and leave everyone who doesn't want to live that way alone, they wouldn't be a threat to the rest of the world. But that would not be Islamism. Islamism wants the entire world governed by Sharia, and anyone who opposes Islamist expansionism is the enemy and must be destroyed. That, of course, includes the United States, all of Europe, and Israel, but it also includes fellow Muslims. Indeed, Islamists have killed far more Muslims than members of any other group. So how many Islamists are there? Nobody knows for sure, but we can make some conservative calculations. There are approximately 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. How many of these are Islamists? A 2013 Pew Research poll offers some clues. 86% of Muslims in Pakistan, 80% in Egypt, and 65% in Jordan support the stoning of adulterers. 79% in Afghanistan, 62% of Palestinians, and 58% in Malaysia, considered a moderate Muslim country, support the death penalty for Muslims who convert from Islam. If only 10% of the world's Muslims are Islamists, and the percentage is likely higher, that's 150 million people. Among these, how many are willing to take violent action to enforce their Islamism? Here we're talking about Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the Taliban, Hamas, Hezbollah, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and other groups that send suicide bombers into markets, explode car bombs at funerals, throw acid in the faces of girls who attend school, murder sisters or daughters who defy the will of a brother or father, or who fly hijacked airplanes into buildings. This is a very hard number to pin down. So let's again be cautious and say the figure is only 2% of that 150 million. That's still 3 million people, 3 million potential terrorists organized by a common ideology and supported by many more. The good news is that hundreds of millions of Muslims are not radical Islamists. Just to cite one example, the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood governed Egypt for 1 year in 2012. But enough Egyptians were so outraged by the Brotherhood's harsh imposition of Sharia law that they staged perhaps the largest demonstrations in human history against the Muslim Brotherhood and brought that government down. Since the beginning of the 20th century, every generation has been confronted with a lethal threat to freedom and fundamental human rights. Free people defeated the last two totalitarian threats, fascism and communism. If we want to preserve freedom, we, non-Muslims and Muslims alike, will have to defeat the threat of our time, Islamism. I'm Raymond Ibrahim, author of the Al-Qaeda Reader for Prager University.